Hey guys, Vegito here, and welcome back to the Potara Podcast. And today, we're heading back to the world of MHA with our first crossover story, titled, What If MHA and Yu-Gi-Oh! Combined? And before we get started, let's go over a bit of world building. In its alternate timeline for MHA, what would normally be quirks instead manifest as decks of duel monsters cards. Because of this, all abuse that was caused by poor responses to various quirks, like Himiko Toga's family, and the various hate groups never happened. Though, since quirks are also the basis of the story, I will also be bringing in the millennium items to keep things interesting, including having All for One being possessed by Zork Necrophades, which means All for One will be in possession of the Millennium Ring in this timeline, and you'll find out who have the other 6 Millennium items later in the story. Now, real quick before we get started, I'd like to remind you to do all the YouTube stuff, such as leaving a like and dropping a comment to help feed the algorithm. Now with that said, let's get started. We begin our tale about 10 years before the start of MHA, around the time when Izuku finds out he's quirkless in canon, and Izuku and Inko are at the doctor, with a 4-year-old Izuku wondering what sort of deck he'll get, imagining maybe he'll get something like his dad's Flame Swordsman deck, or maybe his mom's Noble Knight deck. However, the doctor doesn't hand him a deck of any kind, as the doctor says, "Sorry kid, but I don't have a deck to give you." Inko then asks the doctor why that is, as the doctor pulls out an X-ray he did on Izuku, pointing to where his forearm bones are, explaining that after these cards started to manifest, that researchers have found a connection between thicker forearm bones and cards manifesting, adding that normally he would offer to sell them a structure deck, but currently he's out of structure decks. Inko then says that that's fine, saying that she can barely afford the appointment right now. Izuku is outright distraught and not be able to get a deck of his own, as Inko takes notice of this, and decides to take Izuku home, but not before stopping for ice cream to help Izuku feel better. Izuku and Inko arrive at the ice cream parlor, as both get ice cream cones, with Izuku getting maple bacon. It's a real flavor, look it up. And Inko getting mint chocolate chip. The next day, while Izuku's at school, Inko and Hizashi are at home, discussing Izuku's deckless diagnosis, as Hizashi reveals that he's disappointed that he can't train Izuku with his deck, and he just can't get past his disappointment about this. So he tells Inko that he wants a divorce, as he feels Izuku doesn't deserve how he may handle his disappointment in the fact that he can't train his son how to duel. So he tells Inko that he'll be leaving, in hopes that she'll be able to move on and find a partner that'll be the parent that Izuku deserves. Inko then agrees to this and asks her husband what they should tell Izuku, since she doesn't know how Izuku will handle this at such a young age. Although Hizashi suggests that she tells Izuku that he decided to take a job overseas. Afterwards, the pair decide to head off to a divorce lawyer to get a divorce finalized, and then back to the apartment so Hizashi can pack his stuff and leave. After this, the now single mother calls up her friend Mitsuki and asks her if Izuku can stay the night at her house, with Mitsuki having no real problem with this, with the green-haired woman calling up Izuku's school so they can let Izuku and Bakugo know of the plans for tonight. Izuku and Bakugo's teacher then approaches the pair and lets them know of the situation, with Izuku being hyped to have a sleepover with his best friend. After school, Izuku and Bakugo head home to the Bakugo house, with Mitsuki being there to greet the pair. After dinner, Bakugo notices something awful about Izuku and decides to ask him about it, saying, "Hey Izuku, why do you look so bummed out?" And Izuku explains to his best friend what happened at the doctor, saying that he's bummed because he doesn't have a deck. Bakugo then asks why not, and Izuku reveals that according to the doctor, the reason why he didn't get a deck is that his forearm bones are apparently too thin to support a dual disc. As Bakugo says, "That's dumb. Well, at least it's not something like a second joint in your pinky toe." Bakugo then asks why his mom didn't just get him a structure deck or something, since doctors often sell them. Although Izuku says that the doctor was out of structure decks. A couple weeks pass as we arrive at the Cannon River incident, where things do play out similarly to Cannon, since even without quirks in the mix, Bakugo would still fall off the bridge into the river, as Bakugo pulls out his Red Dragon Archfiend card from his pocket, trying to play it to save himself from falling. But unfortunately, he falls into the river before Red Dragon Archfiend is summoned to save him, with the dragon materializing after Bakugo fell into the river. Izuku notices both his best friend and the dragon in the river, and decides to go see if Bakugo is okay, as Izuku offers Bakugo a helping hand, saying that he was worried he may have hit his head or something, although Bakugo says that he's fine, as the pair notice something in the claws of Red Dragon Archfiend, with Bakugo looking it over and seeing that it's a Duel Monsters card, being a powerful synchro monster called Colossal Fighter. Bakugo then orders his Red Dragon Archfiend to give the card to Izuku, with Izuku taking the card from the claws of his best friend's dragon. From here, we can skip 8 years to Izuku's 12th birthday, with Izuku and Inko celebrating Izuku's birthday with Mitsuki, Masaru, and Bakugo, with Izuku opening up his presents as Masaru hands Izuku a big box, with Izuku opening up and being rather excited at seeing Masaru got him his own duel disc, opening up the box and deciding to try it on, as Masaru says that he managed to find a lighter weight model, since his thinner forearm bones wouldn't be able to let him support a regular duel disc. Izuku says that it fits perfectly, thanking Masaru for the gift. Next is the gift from Inko, as Bakugo told Izuku that he should open up that one first, with Inko handing her son a small box, saying that while she knows it isn't that much, hopes that he'll like it. Izuku opens up the box as it's revealed to be a deck box, with Izuku hugging his mother and thanking her for the gift. Bakugo then says that he suggested it, so that way he'll have a safe place to keep his cards until he's got enough to fully build himself a deck. Mitsuki then says that it's time for her and Katsuki's gift, with Izuku opening up a bag and revealing it to be a belt that Izuku can holster his new deck box to. After this comes cake, with Izuku, of course, getting an All Might themed cake. After all, there may be no quirks in the mix, but it's still Izuku, so of course you're gonna love All Might. From here, we can skip to the events of the entrance exam arc, as we see Izuku and Bakugo heading off to school, where nothing of note really happens, other than seeing the wood hero, Kamui Woods, taking down a villain by using his powerful Predaplant cards, and his starving Venom Fusion Dragon. While at school, Izuku and Bakugo are listening to their teacher ramble on about something, with the teacher saying that as third-year students, they need to start thinking about their futures, and he could pass out some career aptitude tests, but he sees no point, since he all knows they want to go to the duelist track, as the whole class starts getting excited at this, showing off all of their various duel monsters, except Izuku and Bakugo. The teacher then points out that both Izuku and Bakugo want to go to UA, as the whole class, with the exception of Bakugo, starts laughing and making fun of Izuku, and Izuku tries defending himself on this. Although this is when Bakugo steps in, calling out his Red Dragon Archfiend, saying that they don't stop making fun of Izuku, they'll have to deal with his Red Dragon Archfiend. Which afterward, the teacher tries calming everyone down. After this, the rest of the school day is rather uneventful, as both Izuku and Bakugo were heading home, and decided to stop at a 7-Eleven to get something to eat, with the pair getting some katsudon sandwiches and some sodas to wash them down, as they bump into a rather familiar muscular blonde man, with the boys realizing that they just ran into All Might, the #1 hero in all of Japan, as Izuku starts fanboying out, with Bakugo trying to calm him down as to not freak out All Might. Afterwards, the trio head over to the checkout and get ready to pay, as All Might offers to pay for the two boys, with both boys accepting this. This is coming from All Might. Outside of 7-Eleven, All Might then asks the two boys where they plan to go to high school next year, with the two boys saying they both want to attend UA. All Might then asks what kind of decks they have, with Bakugo showing his Red Dragon Archfiend card, while Izuku shows his Colossal Fighter, although All Might wonders why Izuku doesn't have a full deck, with the pair explaining that due to Izuku having thinner forearm bones, a deck didn't automatically manifest for him. This strikes a chord in All Might, with the muscular man asking how Izuku managed to get his cards. Then, with Bakugo explaining that he's been slowly helping Izuku build his deck for the last 10 years, saying that it started when Izuku tried helping him out of a river, and his Red Dragon Archfiend managed to find Izuku's Colossal Fighter near the riverbank, and Red Dragon Archfiend gave it to Izuku to help him out. Then another time, about 3 years after, he was helping a kid get his teddy bear out of a pipe, and he managed to find a Quillbolt hedgehog attached to the bear's back, with the kid giving Izuku the card as a way to thank him for rescuing his teddy bear. 3 years after that, he helped a cat stuck in a tree, and managed to find a junk Synchron stuck in the cat's teeth. All Might then takes this in and starts to see a lot of himself in Izuku, with this being what convinces him to make Izuku his successor. All Might then says that he can help Izuku finish his deck, with All Might adding that he knows a place where Izuku can get the remaining cards for his deck. All Might then adds that he can take the pair there if they like, with the walk to Dagobah Beach being rather uneventful, as Bakugo is surprised to see a bunch of trash cluttering the beach, with the Atomic Blonde asking the muscular man about it, with All Might revealing that unfortunately, due to pollution, a lot of trash is washed up on the beach, and occasionally, people can find cards in the piles of trash. Bakugo then says that they should clean up the beach, so that Izuku can potentially complete his deck, with both Izuku and All Might agreeing to this. From here, a month passes, with Izuku and Bakugo cleaning up the beach, as the blonde notices a card, and thinking he can help Izuku out, goes to grab it. But he ends up stepping on a piece of glass on the way to the card, as the piece of glass ends up getting lodged in his foot, with the blonde screaming out in pain. All Might and Izuku run over to Bakugo, as All Might decides to call out one of his monsters to help get the glass out of Bakugo's foot, summoning out Elemental Hero Neos, and also summoning Destiny Hero Malicious to keep Bakugo from screaming while Neos pulls the glass from his foot, with the muscular hero being able to do so without leaving any permanent damage on the blonde, with All Might running over to bandage his foot, while Neos grabs the card and hands it to Izuku at All Might's command, leaving Izuku's deck at 39 cards. Afterwards, Izuku helps Bakugo home, with Mitsuki being horrified at seeing her son's bandaged foot, and asks Izuku what happened, with the green-haired boy saying that while they were searching a beach for cards for his deck, Bakugo stepped on a piece of broken glass. A few days pass, with Bakugo being back at the beach after what happened, and Izuku ends up finding a card, but it's currently being guarded by a hermit crab, and Izuku notices a jar of dirt, and offers to trade the jar of dirt for the card, with the hermit crab agreeing to this, taking the jar of dirt as its new home. While Izuku, who grabs the final card he needs for his deck. All Might notices that Izuku's now got 40 cards, and pulls out an odd-looking box from his bag with a strange symbol on it, before offering it to Izuku, with the green team wondering what's in the box, as All Might explains that box contains the pieces of the Millennium Puzzle, with Bakugo pointing out that didn't All Might have something like that around his neck? All Might then says that he did used to wear it around his neck until it was shattered in a battle with a villain a few years ago, and that his Millennium Puzzle isn't just an accessory, it's a mystical object called a Millennium Item, with the muscular man adding that there are 7 Millennium Items in total, being the Millennium Puzzle, item that he used to wear around his neck, and which pieces reside in the box. Next is the Millennium Scale, which has the power to weigh the darkness in someone's heart. Then there's the Millennium Key, which lets the holder enter anyone's mind and redecorate the soul to make anyone their puppet. And the last of the items he knows all of their abilities of is the Millennium Ring, which can allow its owner to find whatever they seek, acting like a compass, steal souls or fragments of souls and objects. And it contains the soul of an evil god named Zork Necrophades. And the other 3 items being the Millennium Rod, Millennium Eye, and Millennium Necklace, which he doesn't really know the abilities of. Afterwards, All Might tells the boys to go home, and that they should meet again when Izuku finishes solving the puzzle. From here, we can skip 3 months, as during that time, Izuku and Bakugo mainly practice their dueling skills, while also working on solving the Millennium Puzzle, as after 3 months, the pair managed to solve the Millennium Puzzle during a free period. Bakugo then notices some other things in the box containing the puzzle, being a chain that will let Izuku wear the puzzle around his neck, but also a card, with Bakugo handing the card to Izuku, revealing it to be a powerful synchro monster named Stardust Dragon. But just then, something odd comes out of the Millennium Puzzle, as a bunch of odd creatures come out of the Millennium Puzzle, as the pair are surprised to see the creatures, as Bakugo yells out to Izuku that maybe his new Stardust Dragon card can stop these creatures. Izuku activates his duel disc and summons out his Stardust Dragon, with the Silver Dragon and coming out to defend the 2 boys from the shadow creatures. Bakugo is tempted to call his Red Dragon Archfiend to give Izuku's new dragon some backup, but Izuku says that he thinks Stardust Dragon has this under control, with Stardust blasting away the shadow creatures with a powerful cosmic flare. Stardust Dragon disappears, with Izuku looking at the card and is excited to have such a cool card, before placing the card into his extra deck. Afterwards, Bakugo says that they should call up All Might and let him know that they managed to solve the puzzle. All Might then tells Izuku to meet him at Dagobah Beach. The green team doing as told, as he decides to thank All Might for everything he did for him these last 4 months, by inviting him over to his house for dinner, as a blonde man says he'll think about it. Later that evening, Izuku and Inko are getting everything ready for dinner, as the sound of a doorbell goes off, with Inko going to answer the door, as she's surprised to see who has rung her doorbell, revealing it to be All Might. The green-haired woman then asks why he's here at her home, with the muscular man revealing that Izuku invited him over for dinner, pointing out that he thought Izuku would have told her. Izuku then comes over and apologizes to his mother, saying he should have told her he invited a guest. Inko says that luckily she made plenty of food before inviting All Might inside, being a bit starstruck that All Might is in her home. Here, the rest of the dinner is pretty uneventful, other than a potential spark between Inko and All Might forming. From here, 3 months pass, as All Might calls up Izuku and Bakugo, and tells the 2 boys to meet him at Dagobah Beach. The 2 boys doing as told, seeing the muscular man at the beach, as Bakugo asks the muscular man why he wanted to meet them at the beach. All Might then says that another Millennium item user wanted to meet Izuku, with the green team asking which item they have. As just then, the trio hear the sound of a giant mechanical bird flying towards them, as the 2 teens are rather shocked to see Ray Raptor Rise Falcon, the ace card of the wing hero Hawks. Rise Falcon lands on the beach, as 2 people hop off the bird, as one is revealed to be a woman with white hair with some red streaks in it, and the other is more familiar to the 2 teens, being a man with feathery ash blonde hair, wearing an aviator's uniform and wearing an odd-looking key in the shape of an ankh around his neck. The woman also has a penguin with her that appears to be wearing a nice suit and top hat, with Bakugo pointing it out as Nightmare Penguin. Hawks then thanks his Rise Falcon for the ride, before saying to All Might that he hasn't seen him since the wedding, and asks a symbol of peace how he's been, as the trio are catching up, while Izuku and Bakugo are confused at how they all know each other, with All Might explaining that he knows Hawks and Fuyumi, saying that he attended their wedding over a year ago. Hawks then states the reason as to why he and his wife are here, saying that he wants to use his Millennium Key to test both Izuku and Bakugo to see if All Might made the right choice, giving Izuku the Millennium Puzzle. Hawks then asks which one wants to be tested first, with Bakugo stepping up, as Hawks places the key onto Bakugo's forehead before entering Bakugo's soul room, as he sees a bedroom with a bunch of hero merch of a few various heroes, being All Might, Endeavor, Best Jeanist, Headshot, and Mirko, as Hawks sees that Bakugo has a heroic heart, even if he does have a lot of pride and some anger issues. Hawks then says to Bakugo that he passed the test, and now it's on to the new wielder of the Millennium Puzzle, Izuku. Hawks gets the Millennium Key ready and enters Izuku's soul room after pressing the key to his forehead, as he's surprised at seeing a bunch of All Might merch plastered across the walls. Hawks then takes this in and says that Izuku passed the test. During all this, Fuyumi is showing All Might pictures of all of Benji's grandkids, with All Might thinking all three of them are adorable. Hawks then approaches All Might and Fuyumi and says that both boys have passed the test, adding that All Might made a good choice in picking Izuku to be the next holder of the Millennium Puzzle, with Hawks and Fuyumi bidding the boys and All Might farewell, as they fly off back to the Todoroki estate on Rave Raptor Rise Falcon to pick up their daughter. 3 months pass as we arrive at 1 week before the entrance exam, as Inko is currently at home watching some TV, as she hears the doorbell and heads over to check it out, as she's surprised to see All Might at her door again, deciding to ask the muscular man what she owes the pleasure of him visiting again. All Might then remembers back to Fuyumi giving him some dating advice after he told her about his plans to ask out Inko, and finally decides to pluck up the courage to ask Inko out on a date, with Inko being rather shocked at this, but agrees to the date. All Might then tells her to wear something nice, since he has a really nice restaurant in mind for this date, playing that it's a rather nice steakhouse with hibachi that requires reservations. Inko then reveals that since most of her income goes towards supporting Izuku, that she doesn't really have a lot of nice clothes. All Might takes this in and offers to take Inko shopping, but Inko says that she doesn't really have a lot of money, as the muscular man says that she doesn't have to worry about money, adding that he already planned to cover everything for their date. The shopping trip is rather uneventful, other than Inko getting a rather nice dress for their date. Week passes as the day of the actual date arrives, as Inko tells Izuku that he'll have the apartment to himself tonight, saying that she's going out with a friend, and that she left him some money so he can order his own food. Inko then leaves the apartment as she sees All Might waiting for her outside the apartment, with the muscular man asking if she's ready to go. Inko and All Might then head out, with Inko being rather surprised to see a fancy sports car in her assigned parking spot, as All Might introduces the car as Hercules. Afterwards, the drive to the steakhouse is rather uneventful, although All Might and Inko end up bonding about Izuku and talking about the upcoming UA entrance exam you'll have the next day. The pair arrive at the steakhouse and head over to the hibachi station, where the chef is surprised to see All Might, while Inko is in awe at how fancy and expensive everything is, although the blonde man reassures her that he plans to pay for everything. Both end up enjoying the hibachi show, and everything ends up being delicious. Later that night, All Might arrives back at the Midoriya apartment with Inko and walks her up the stairs as the pair share a kiss goodnight, before All Might leaves and Inko enters her apartment. The next day, after eating a good breakfast and getting some encouraging words from his mother, Izuku meets up with Bakugo as the pair head off to UA for the entrance exam. Walk to UA is rather uneventful, but on the way into the school, however, Izuku almost trips over his own feet, but he's saved by Bakugo, with the pair finding out that they've been sent to separate exam fields. Bakugo wishes his best friend good luck on his duel, as Izuku heads off to exam field B, while Bakugo heads off to exam field C. Izuku arrives at exam field B and meets his test proctor, With the pair shaking hands before the pair activate their duel discs, shuffle their decks as the duel begins. The Proctor then takes the first move, summoning out Dragoonity Senatus, before activating its effect and discarding Dragoonity Corseska to equip Dragoonity Remus from his deck before ending his turn. Izuku draws a card and then activates the Starlight Junction field spell before then playing Tuning, allowing Izuku to search his deck for a Synchron monster, at the cost of sending the top card of his deck to the graveyard afterwards. Izuku then decides to grab his trusty Junk Synchron, but has to send his Mirror Force to the graveyard to the top of his deck. Izuku then summons out his Junk Synchron in attack mode, and then proceeds to activate his Monster Reborn card to summon back the Proctor's Dragoonity Corseska, although Izuku ends his turn, and he can't really do anything else. The Proctor draws and then plays the card he drew, World Legacy Guard Dragon, and then calls out his Dragoonity Legionnaire afterwards, activating its effect, sending Dragoonity Remus to the graveyard to destroy Izuku's Junk Synchron, but this also activating the effect of Dragoonity Remus, summoning him back to the field, and allowing the Proctor to tune his Dragoonity Remus with his Dragoonity Senatus to synchro summon his Dragoonity Knight Vajrayana. I know I probably just butchered that name, so I apologize for that in advance. The Proctor then has Dragoonity Legionnaire attack Dragoonity Corseska, destroying it and leaving Izuku's field empty, other than his field spell, cause Vajrayana had to go in for a direct attack, taking Izuku's life points down to 2100. The Proctor then ends his turn, allowing Izuku to draw and play the card he drew, Synchro Overtake, allowing him to reveal a Synchro monster in his extra deck. Choose one of the Synchro materials mentioned on it, and either add it to his hand or special summon it back to his field. Izuku reveals his Junk Warrior, and summons back his Junk Synchron from his graveyard. This also activates the effect of Izuku's Doppel Warrior from his hand, summoning itself to the field. Izuku then normal summons the second copy of Doppel Warrior from his hand, before tuning his Junk Synchron with one of his Doppel Warriors to synchro summon out his Junk Speeder, and this triggers both effects, with Doppel Warrior summoning out 2 Doppel tokens, while Junk Speeder summons out both a Junk Synchron and a Wheel Synchron from Izuku's deck. Izuku then tunes his Junk Synchron with his Junk Speeder to synchro summon out his ace, Stardust Dragon! Izuku then tunes together his Wheel Synchron with his other Doppel Warrior and one of his Doppel tokens to summon out his Colossal Fighter, which thanks to the 5 warrior type monsters in Izuku's graveyard, gets a 500 point attack boost to 3300. Doppel Warrior's effect kicks in, granting Izuku 2 more Doppel tokens. Izuku then begins his counterattack by having Colossal Fighter destroy Dragoonity Legionnaire, taking the Proctor's life points down to 1900. Izuku then has Stardust Dragon attack Vajrayana, destroying it and leaving the Proctor with 1300 life points. Izuku then has all 3 of his Doppel tokens attack, leaving the Proctor with only 100 life points. Izuku then sets 1 card face down before ending his turn. The Proctor then draws and places the card he drew face down, before activating the effect of his Dragoonity Armagram from his hand, banishing his Dragoonity Corseska and Dragoonity Senatus to special summon it. The Proctor then normal summons out his Dragoonity Kuz, or tributing the pair of monsters to link summon out Dragoonity Knight Romulus. The Proctor then activates the effect of Romulus, but Izuku activates his face down Call by the Grave, banishing Dragoonity Kuz as the Proctor fetches Dragon Ravine from his deck, playing it before activating the effect of his World Legacy Guard Dragon, moving Romulus back to one of his regular monster zones. The Proctor then attacks one of Izuku's Doppel tokens, destroying it and taking Izuku's life points to 1300. The Proctor then ends his turn, allowing Izuku to draw and activate the effect of the Wheel Synchron in his graveyard, banishing it and reducing Colossal Fire's level to 4, before normal summoning his Synchron Explorer, and then having Stardust Dragon attack Dragoonie Knight Romulus, destroying it and taking the Proctor's life points down to 0, winning Izuku the duel. Some time passes as Inko comes in the apartment, saying to Izuku that he got his letter from UA, with Izuku heading to his room to open up his results from the entrance exam. And that's where we'll leave this timeline off for right now. So, what did you guys think? Do you think Izuku's going to get into UA? How do you think Bakugo did on his test? Let me know in the comments below. And with that said, I'll get on out of here. Peace!